It's 2026. We're fresh off the heels of the first stop of our FanFest tour for Final Fantasy XIV, and your favorite YouTuber and or streamer said you should give it a shot. Or maybe your friend's saying they're going back to Eorzea, or they started themselves for the first time, and you yourself are on the fence. Well, without all the fluff and stuff, I'm here to tell you why you should or maybe shouldn't play the game. And at the very end, I'll give a little blurb about myself, who I am as a gamer. Disclosure, I'm not a 14 content creator. I'm just a guy who's been playing the game since 2.0 launched back in 2013. I've been through the highs and lows, so yeah, take my information with what you will. Right off the rip, I would have to say, just at the very least, give the free trial a shot. It includes the base game and 3 of our 5 current expansions. To give you an idea, those of us who are at the current endgame for Final Fantasy XIV, we're at level 100. The free trial lets you get up to level 80 before you sink a penny into it. It includes 3 of our best hits too. That's the thing, it's 14's expansions are all kind of just bangers. The free trial isn't without its limitations. A lot of your social features are limited. For example, you can't join a free company. That's our guilds here in 14. You can't join a PvP team. That's not something that's really relevant anymore. It used to be when we had the Feast. It was a PvP system about 5 or 6 years ago. Hasn't really been a thing since. It's nothing really. We have link shells. It's like our pseudo private chats. You can't make one as a free trial player, but you can join one. You can't gift or receive gifts from the Mog Station. That's our cash shop. Those are mostly just cosmetics, untradeable stuff that you want to use on your person. It's nothing influencing your gameplay minus how you look. Maybe a couple of hairstyles. You do have a gil limit of 300,000 gil. You can't partake in ultimate raids. That is our cream of the crop difficulty. That is the pinnacle of what any raider aspires to be able to do. You can't access the market board, you can't trade with other players, you can't hire a retainer to sell your goods on the market board. You also don't have access to a post box. This is how you send and receive items to friends or, communicate with people. You don't get to own real estate. Now, in Final Fantasy XIV, when you own a house, that's an actual location in-game that you own. There's only so many wards, and each ward has a set number of houses, and once you own a house, that's a physical location in a neighborhood. That means anybody who goes through these neighborhoods, they can see your house. You can set them up to where you have them open or anything like that, but yeah. So those are your restrictions. So now we'll get into the why or why not you should play this game. Right off the rip, I'm going to say the community's pretty friendly. I've been playing for 13 years, and I can only count on my hand 2 instances where I've actually encountered an asshole. One was during a one-off raid instance. Tensions were high, DPS was low, and that's where the argument started. But it was, it was a one-off thing. The other was I had issues with a free company. But most of the problems you see and most of the drama you see on social media is just that. It's social media. Half of that shit doesn't translate to the game. Plain and simple. Another thing is Final Fantasy XIV has a lot of different ways to play. You got your casual content, hardcore content. The roleplay scene's pretty huge in 14, but that helps because of the growing emotes and cosmetic systems and stuff like that. There's also crafting and gathering content that has its own classes. Market board content, buying and selling. Personally, one of my favorites is I like to, track the market, watch trends and stuff like that. Kind of role play as stockbroker. We also have an active PvP scene. A lot of people have started realizing how good our PvP is, and they've been hosting tournaments. I myself have been part of a couple PvP tournaments, and it's really good stuff. There's also varying content for, say you want to be a solo player. Well, the story is entirely playable solo. You have a function called Trusts. Trusts lets you grab NPCs and run content with them. They're working on implementing duo content in Evercold. We have plenty of group content that's 4-player content. Large group content that's 8-player content. Those are typically going to be your boss battles and your raids. And then we have alliance content, which is a 24-man content. That's 3 groups of 8. Another thing that stands out for me for Final Fantasy XIV is you don't need alt characters. The armory system, which is unique to Final Fantasy XIV, allows you to have all classes on a single character. And changing classes is as simple as first unlocking it, making sure you have it unlocked, and then say you want to swap. Simply equip the weapon for that class, and boom, there you go, you're a different class. The armor system also lets you, any class lower than your highest level class gets a nice little bonus EXP, which feels really good, and then it kind of teeters off near the end, once you start hitting level cap, but still, the more classes you have leveled up, the faster your overall leveling experience is. Another thing that sets apart 14 from ESO and WoW for me is the fact that you don't need to use plugins or add-ons. Not only do you not need them, they're against terms of service, but what I mean by not needing them is the game is so balanced, like ridiculously balanced, and so well made that you don't need trackers for anything. Final Fantasy XIV is playable on pretty much every platform. You've got PC, you've got PlayStation, you've got Xbox, and later this year, we're getting a Nintendo Switch version. And the coolest part is all of these games play on the exact same servers. Meaning, doesn't matter which system you're on, as long as you're on the same data center / server as your friends, you'll be able to play with each other. And even then, with the data center travel and the server visiting, you can still kind of move around to like hang out with your friends in-game if you'd like. Now, some of you might be joining the game or wanting to join the game because you saw that in the next upcoming expansion, we're getting an Evangelion crossover. What if I told you that wasn't the only crossover we get? 2 sets of Monster Hunter crossovers that don't go away. The Monster Hunter content in Stormblood has us fighting a Rothlos. The Monster Hunter content that we got with Dawn Trail lets us fight an Arkveld, and both of them are pretty good about not breaking the immersion in the lore of the world. It's pretty neat. Definitely a lot of fun. We have little things in the Gold Saucer, like the Fall Guys event. That's just like a little obstacle course where you can get cosmetics. The Yokai Watch event is where you go, do some fates, get some funny weapons. The Nier event is something you free trial players can do as well. The Nier Alliance Raid, that's your 24-man content in the Shadowbringers chapter of the game, is fantastic. You'll experience, stories with the characters you know and love from the Nier Automata series, and Yoko Taro himself has said that that is canon to the Nier universe, so do with that what you will. Having said all that, Final Fantasy XIV is not without its downsides. For example, if you've played any of the other two of the big three, that's ESO or WoW, and you've done their housing system, you will immediately feel that 14 has the weakest of the three. And I'm only talking about decorating. Personally, as somebody who has spent, quite a big amount of gold in Elder Scrolls Online to decorate their houses, multiple houses, always coming back to 14's housing system feels like a downgrade, but that's only because I don't want to learn all the tips and tricks needed to really make the game pop as far as housing goes. If you could spend 5 minutes on YouTube looking up other players, what they've done with their houses and things along those lines, and it's crazy. I just personally, I would rather just pay somebody Gil, and good Gil, to decorate my house. Now, starting off the game, you will be in A Realm Reborn, and by all accounts, that's the lowest point in the game. Not saying it's bad, but it's just a lot of world building, exposition, and character introductions, as well as, establishing your role in the happenings of Eorzea. It'll be very tempting to skip a cutscene, and regardless of what anybody wants to say, play it your way. And I mean this. Final Fantasy XIV comes with a New Game Plus option that after you complete a chapter of a story, it allows you to go back and rewatch those cutscenes. Also, the Never-Ending Journey in your in-room lets you rewatch cutscenes. So if you're not feeling cutscenes one particular day and you skip a couple, that's okay. More often than not, some of these elements that you've, in one instance are revisited later. And speaking of overwhelming early on, when everything's, available to unlock for you, it may be easy to get overwhelmed. It's one of those, oh no, my steak is too juicy, my lobster is too buttery, and I'm not exaggerating. There is tons of content to do. Take it at your own pace. Don't feel obligated to do everything before you move on to the next zone. Fast travel is fast travel. You can transport to any part of the world in seconds, and it's not anything crazy. You're not going to miss any content. Nothing is time gated to you. You can always go back and unlock more. So don't feel pressured to kind of, feel like you have to unlock everything in game off the rip. Take your time. So you played through all the MSQ, you own the game, you have an active sub, and you've hit in-game. What can you do? Well, currently it depends on your data center. And what I mean by this is currently, for example, if you were on my data center, which is Crystal Data Center, and then Coral Server, Crystal Data Center is a casual data center. meaning there's not a lot of raiders, which means immediately your options to join a static are kind of low. Unless you know some friends actively looking for one, you may not find one. However, with the data center and server visiting system we have in 14, you can go to another one. However, later this summer, we're actually getting an update that lets us matchmake and create groups across all data centers. That's right, they are lumping the ability to group up for content across all data centers. It'll be regional matchmaking, because currently it's data center matchmaking. So you'll only be able to match with other servers in your data center currently. However, like I said, later this summer, they're melding it all into one giant thing where it's regional matchmaking, so all data centers and all servers in North America will find each other in, Party Finder, Duty Finder, which is what you use to queue up for dungeons and boss fights and stuff like that. One of my biggest qualms with Final Fantasy XIV for a while now has been skill expression, or actually lack thereof. And what this means is if you go to endgame content like a Savage Raid or an Ultimate Raid, you running a class will be expected to have the exact same rotation as everybody else who runs that class. Which means, like, say you're running Ninja, you will be running the exact same rotation as every other ninja in that game, which is quite boring. It doesn't really offer a lot of skill expression. But with the new upcoming expansion, Evercold, it looks like we're getting an alternate control scheme that'll allow us to have a little bit more expression as far as branching combos and rotations and stuff like that goes. Very excited for that. Another thing you may or may not have heard during all of Dawn Trail's release is that there is not a lot to do. Admittedly, the patch cycle throughout Dawn Trail has been slow, and by no content, I think that just boils down to the community is going through the content faster than the devs can pump it out. Which is, that's understandable. A live service game, you need more content. The devs have acknowledged this, and they know they are aware, and that next expansion should be a little quicker. We've learned that the reason for this is because they are doing massive system overhauls for the new expansion, and there's a lot to look forward to. The current gearing system for endgame is pretty dull. The tombstone system, which was introduced back in 2.0, 13 years ago, is finally being retired with the upcoming expansion. Currently, you log in, you open your Duty Finder, which is just a menu in the game, you queue up for those, you do all those, and then boom, you've hit cap. That's it. But starting with Evercold, it's going to be an activity-based thing where you actually go out and do things, gather X amount of materials to earn, experience towards a rewards track that gives you, your currencies and stuff like that. With the new expansion, we get new levels, like for example, Evercold coming up, we're getting 110, and with each, level cap increase, we get more actions. Hotbar bloat is a real thing. That is a huge thing in Final Fantasy XIV, especially for those of you on mouse and keyboard, and most of you on controller. It's hard to navigate, 6, 7, 8 hotbars when you're in the middle of content and you're looking for a specific action. With Evercold's release, though, they are simplifying things a lot, especially since they're adding that new control scheme. So, yeah, you're literally, if you start the game now and you kind of get into it and you get all the way to endgame, you are coming at one of the, technical lowest points of the game. We have a lot of quality of life things coming in Evercold, and it's essentially going to be like, a massive overhaul and a refresh for the game. And there you have it. All of our yays or nays about why you maybe should or shouldn't play Final Fantasy XIV. To give you an idea of who I am, my name is Sig. I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV on and off since 2013's initial release, 2.0, A Realm Reborn. And, I pretty much play all content in this game. I do Savage Raids, I do crafting, gathering, I do market board PvP, and that's just me, battling other players for the sales. It's more glamorous than it sounds. I buy houses on occasions, and I take a break, and I lose the house, so on and so forth. I'm not a 14 content creator. I'm just a variety streamer who also just happens to love this game, and I've noticed that a lot of people have started to kind of get into it for one reason or another, and I wanted to kind of put my experiences out there for y'all to see, and kind of make your own decision. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a like and a sub. I'd appreciate it if you could maybe share it with some of your friends. If I missed anything, comment below in the videos, maybe some questions you have, or maybe some of my veteran players. Post some things, some advice, you'd give to people contemplating getting into the game. Pain points you've experienced, what's your favorite thing, things along those lines. I'm not going to take up too much of y'all's time. Everybody, y'all have a great day, stay safe, drink water, eat beans, and I'll talk to y'all later.